My name is Lori and welcome to my channel, Books, Ink, and Paper. So today we're going to talk about my August book haul, and you may have noticed I had no book haul in July. You may or may not have noticed that. I made it through the entire month of July without purchasing a single book. I wanted to see if I could do it, and I did. And then I think what happened was that I was so sort of deprived, feeling so deprived at having not purchased a single book in July that maybe went a little bit overboard in August. Now, most of the books that I acquired in August, I acquired while I was away for a couple of days in Oxford, Mississippi, in that area. And I had a conversation with a couple of members of my family about my book buying, and I've been feeling a certain way about my book buying habits. So I am going to talk in another video about my plans for book buying for the next few months before the end of the year. But until then, let's talk about what I acquired in the month of August. So the first books that I acquired in the month of August were purchased at the Violet Valley Bookstore in Water Valley, Mississippi. This is a nonprofit bookstore owned by some women who teach at the University of Mississippi, and they have used books primarily and a few new books as well. So I went in twice, and the second time I made my decision. So I picked up sort of a random choice, Laura Lippman, The Last Place. I've read I think at least one Laura Lippman, maybe two, but this one is about some unsolved homicides in the city of Baltimore. And Tess Monaghan, who is the detective, starts to begin to review these cases and see if she can figure out, solve these crimes. Laura Lippman is a great mystery writer, mystery thriller writer, and it was a really 25-cent used book, so I picked it up. Then I got a couple of unique copies of some classics. This is John Steinbeck's Of Mice and Men, and this is a modern library published version. So this one I guess came out, it's pretty old. I would say this copy was, let me find out before I tell you anything wrong. This copy came out in the 60s, it looks like, 1965, but this is one of my favorites, and I like to collect classics whenever I can, and it was a nice little copy of this short novel, so I grabbed it. And then I also grabbed The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne, again a vintage old copy. This was a couple of dollars. This is again from the Modern Library, so this is a publisher that may or may not still publish classics, but I have not read The Scarlet Letter for a long time, and I do want to read more classics and just have them available for when my granddaughter wants to or needs to read them for school. So I picked those couple up at the Violet Valley Bookstore. Then I made my annual pilgrimage to Square Books in Oxford, which has actually Square Books, Off Square Books, and Square Junior Books. So we went to all three a couple of times, and as usual, we had a delightful time, and I did pretty well, I would say, from what I could have done at Square Books. I actually got the two of these at Off Square, so they were either different versions of or different published versions of this particular book, and then one was a used copy of something that I love. So the first one is the Vintage Faulkner series that was published by Vintage UK and Random House, and so this is Absalom, which I didn't have. I don't have a lot of Faulkner anymore, and it's one that drew me in because I just love this cover. That, first of all, it's got a pink sky over this great, glorious home, and so I just can't wait to dig into this one. Of course, William Faulkner, his family's from the Oxford, Mississippi area. We did go visit Faulkner House while we were there. So I was kind of in the Faulkner spirit. And then when I saw this, I thought, ooh, that's a great price. I would love to have that copy, and I may try to acquire the other vintage book copies of Faulkner as well. But this novel follows Sootpen, who was turned away from a mansion by the butler, and he is determined to force his way into the upper echelons of Southern society. And then the Civil War happens, and so it's historical fiction set in the South. William Faulkner. Those three things are all you need to know. And then I purchased this in, I shouldn't say what I'm going to do with it, but I purchased this in paperback a while ago, and I said if I found the hard copy, I would pick it up, and that's Life After Life by Kate Atkinson. I love this novel. I have the hardcover version, or hardcover copy of A God in Ruins, which is somewhat of a sequel, but also a standalone novel to this, and so I wanted the hardcover. I never owned it, except for the paperback copy I acquired a couple months ago. So I'm very, very excited. And I do plan to reread this year. But this follows, I may have talked about this before, but it follows Ursula Todd, who is born and dies, and is born again and dies, and relives her life in different lengths and stages for the entire novel. It can be complex and confusing, because Ursula sometimes lives a while, and sometimes only lives hours, and sometimes lives days, and but eventually she discovers that this is something that continues to happen to her, and it is just fantastic and neat and unique, and I'm so glad I found it. So I think that this copy was really like $6 or something. It was $6, and so who could resist a $6 copy of a Kate Atkinson novel? And I found that I went to the Goodwill because one of the ladies at Violet Valley said that I wanted a complete works of William Faulkner, and they were out of it. And so she said, but sometimes you can find them at the Goodwill because the students sell them off at the end of the school year, and so there's a ton of them at the Goodwill. There was nothing about Faulkner, so I think we had come the week that people were moving in, so maybe they were already starting to purchase what they needed for their fall class. But they did have Every Heart a Doorway by Sean McGuire, which I have been wanting to read for a while. It's a very short, maybe novella, magical realism, I think, and possibly YA, but it just maybe fantasy, just neat reviews on this. A lot of people like it, and it's been on my to-read list for a bit, and it was at the Goodwill, so I picked that up. Then I picked up Blood Magic, which is book 3 in the Cousins O'Dwyer trilogy series. This is I guess a paranormal romance trilogy that Nora Roberts has written. She's written several of those. This is a group of witches, as I recall. I don't remember a lot about this trilogy. What I loved about it is this is, again, a French flap version of one of these trilogies, and this just happened to me recently when I found the French flap deckled edge version of the other trilogy about witches that I'm currently finishing up, book 3 from that. But I've read book 1 of this a while ago. I don't remember a lot about it, but this version of these is just stunning to me. Even though the books are just okay, they're so pretty. So I may try to find the first one and the second one. One of them is Shadow Spell. I think Shadow Spell might be the second one, and I can't remember what the first one is called, but A Dark Witch, I think, maybe. So this was there at the Goodwill too, and it was just a couple dollars, so I grabbed it. And then maybe my favorite acquisition of the month of August, because I got to meet the author and have my book signed, is The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. She came to our local bookstore in Past Christian, Cat Island Books, to sign her novels, and I got this first one. So this follows 16-year-old Star Chapman. Nope, Star Carter. I know somebody named Star Chapman, so that's where that went. Star Carter, and she goes to a like some kind of a prep school, I think. Yeah, a suburban prep school. And she witnesses the shooting death of her best friend from childhood, which makes national headlines. And the aftermath of that crime is very challenging for her, not only in her grief, but in the things that happen within the community at school, and the experience that she has as a grieving Black child in a predominantly white prep school. And she kind of knows what happened, and I think so. This has fantastic reviews. My daughter's read it. I got a copy for her too. Uh, I have never heard anyone say anything negative about this book. Everyone I know loves it. Angie Thomas was delightful to meet. Beautiful, great smile, super energy, nice author. And she came here she lives here in Mississippi, but she came down right before the Mississippi Book Festival, which I didn't get to go to this year, but I can't wait to read this, and I may take this with me on I have a couple trips coming up. I know you're not surprised. So I may take this one with me. It's not too big. Then I also this month signed up for a subscription, and I just did a video about how I listen to audio books, but I signed up to a subscription for Libro.fm, which is a place where you can purchase audiobooks and listen to them on your device and support your local bookstore. So it supports Square Books. And I purchased On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Vuong. This just came out in June 2019. This is the only title that I've yet purchased from Libro FM, but it follows it's a story about a young boy writing a letter to his mother. His name is Little Dog, and he tells the story of his family history, about Vietnam, about it's really an exploration of race and ethnicity, and the perspective of a young man and a son and mother relationship. It has great ratings on Goodreads. I've heard good things about it. So those are the books that I pulled into my library this month. I will let you know when I read these books and others. And as always, I hope you have a very happy reading day. Bye.